Many people recognize that negative actions tend to be remembered more vividly than positive ones. Some individuals hold on to such resentment that they actively seek opportunities for revenge. This tendency is what sets humans apart from animals. Generally, animals have a strong memory for the kindness shown to them and will simply avoid those who have wronged them. It is unlikely for a wild animal to seek revenge. They primarily act on instinct, driven by the fundamental need for survival. If they encounter a wounded animal in the forest, they will likely take advantage of it to feed themselves and their families. But what happens when a hungry wild beast comes across a helpless, injured person? And what if that person had once shown kindness to the animal? Will a wild creature remember such an act of goodwill? Today's story will explore this question. So, make yourself comfortable as we begin. This story is about a 70-year-old man who lived alone in a remote village in the Taiga. His children had started their own families and moved to nearby towns. The old man had to take care of everything by himself. Despite his age, he was still strong and managed all his chores easily. He could climb onto the roof to fix it, carry heavy logs from the forest to repair the fence, and bring enough water into the house for his laundry. He often went hunting and picked mushrooms and berries, sharing them with his children. One day, he got ready for a hunting trip and went into the forest early in the morning. He wandered for a long time, looking for animals, and went far from home. Then he heard a rustling in the bushes. At first, he looked around, not wanting to meet a large wild animal. Next, he heard a sad squeak. The old man carefully moved the branches to see what was making the noise. He was surprised to find a small, helpless wolf pup in the bushes. He looked around carefully, knowing that if there was a pup, there must be a mother wolf nearby. He listened closely and looked between the trees, but he didn't see any other wolves. The little wolf pup was very weak. He could hardly move and looked up at the old man with hopeful eyes. The man felt sorry for the poor creature. He picked him up, cradled him in his arms, and headed home. The hunt was evidently canceled because the wolf pup was very weak, and it was urgent to feed him, otherwise he might not survive. The man brought the animal home, gave him milk to drink until he was full, after which the wolf pup curled up in the elderly man's arms and sweetly fell asleep. "What am I to do with you?" the man thought. "You can't keep a wild beast as a pet. Well, you can stay here for now, get stronger, and then I will take you back to the forest." The man said this to the wolf pup and carefully placed him in his jacket, which he set in the corner as a makeshift couch for him. The elderly man quickly became attached to his foundling and even named him Raven because of his dark coat color. So a year passed. During this time, Raven grew stronger and transformed into a beautiful, stately wolf. The man loved his pet dearly, but he understood that a wild animal had no place among humans. He tried several times to take Raven into the forest and leave him there, but each time the wolf returned home to his savior and refused to go back to the wild. Yes, Raven looked very impressive and somewhat frightening. After all, he was a wolf, but he exhibited more dog-like habits. He gladly and willingly guarded his territory, was sincerely happy at the return of his master, and even tried to fetch a stick. Raven never showed aggression toward humans, and the elderly man did not chain him up like a yard dog. Instead, he allowed him to roam freely around the yard and village. Of course, the neighbors were not comfortable with this, as no one knew Raven better than the elderly man, and everyone was worried that he might attack a random passerby or a child. One day, a local policeman knocked on the man's door. The neighbors had written a statement against the man and his wild pet. Allegedly, chickens had started disappearing from the chicken coops, and of course, everyone suspected Raven of this. He was the only wild beast in the entire village, and all suspicion, without a shadow of a doubt, fell on him. The man tried to assure the district police officer and his neighbors that Raven could not get into the chicken coop and drag off their chickens, that this was some kind of mistake and misunderstanding, but the people were adamant. They clearly wanted to get rid of the wolf. The district police officer advised the man to put the wolf on a chain so that the neighbors would not shoot him. The man had no idea how to chain a wild animal, especially since Raven did not show the slightest aggression toward people. He came home and sat for a long time next to his beast. He stroked Raven's neck, looked into his eyes, and sincerely worried about his fate. He understood that if he did not put him on a chain, one of the neighbors would definitely find a reason to shoot Raven. The best solution would be to take him far into the forest so that the wolf could return to his natural habitat. But the man had already tried this several times, and the wolf constantly returned to his owner. Grudgingly, the man took the collar out of the barn and fastened it around Raven's neck. Then he hammered a stake into the ground and attached a heavy chain to it, one that a powerful wolf could not pull out. With a feeling of guilt and sincere regret, he called Raven to him and attached the other end of the chain to the wolf's collar. Raven fought desperately for several hours, trying to escape from his captivity. Every now and then, he got entangled in the chain, and the man would untangle it. Raven looked into the man's eyes with longing and hope, sincerely wondering why his kind master had done this to him, why he had tied him up and did not allow him to roam as before. Finally exhausted, the wolf lay helplessly on the ground. After that, he seemed to lose all interest in life. When the elderly man approached the wolf to stroke him, Raven turned his face away, not even wanting to look in his direction. At night, he howled. He howled so loudly and pitifully that the man's heart broke with sadness when he heard the sound. The neighbors began to complain about this howling to the district police officer. It was simply impossible to live and sleep under such conditions. The wolf became weaker every day. He did not drink or eat. He just lay there for days, chained up. Finally, the man could not bear the torment of his pet any longer. He approached Raven, looked into his eyes as if to say, "Run away from here, friend, and never come back." He took off the collar from the wolf, and Raven rushed headlong into the forest, never stopping or looking back at his owner. A month passed. The man looked at the edge of the forest every day, hoping to see a familiar silhouette, but the wolf never returned. Then the man thought that either the wolf was so offended that he could not forgive him, or he simply could not survive in the wild, having been domesticated. Meanwhile, the chickens in the village continued to disappear, which once again proved that Raven had nothing to do with it. Later, the neighbors saw a fox nearby, and everyone decided that it must have been the fox that dragged away the poultry. But it was already too late. Raven never came back. Several years passed. The long Taiga winter arrived. The elderly man had a granddaughter in a neighboring village, and he often went to visit her on skis through the Taiga. It would have been possible to walk along the road, but skiing was much faster and more familiar. Besides, he knew the local forests very well. On that day, he stayed at a party longer than usual, and when he was about to go home, the sun was already setting, but this did not stop the man. He was confident in his abilities and could not even imagine that the evening path could differ from the usual road during the day. But he was wrong. The Taiga looks different in the evening, and what can be clearly seen on the road during the day may be simply hidden from human eyes at night. At the next turn of the road, the man did not notice a stump covered with snow and stumbled over it with all his might. He lost his balance and fell, and when he tried to get up, he realized that his leg was broken and that he could not get to the village on his own. He then took out his gun and fired several times into the air in the hope that someone from the village would hear him and come to his rescue. A few minutes later, the man noticed movement in the bushes and heard a menacing roar. He turned to see a huge wolf just a few steps away, baring its teeth. Terrified, he closed his eyes, bracing for the worst. After a couple of minutes, he opened his eyes to find the wolf had not attacked, but he was alone. Exhausted and freezing, he finally heard people calling for him. Soon, a district police officer and several villagers arrived, building a stretcher to take him to the hospital. The man thought they had come in response to his gunshots, but the officer revealed that it was Raven, the wolf he had once rescued, who had led them to him. Raven, remembering the man's kindness, returned to help, showing that even wild animals can feel gratitude and repay good deeds. What do you think of this story? Let us know in the comments section. I hope you like this video. Please give it a thumbs up and share it with your loved ones. Also subscribe and press the bell icon to never miss the update from our channel. Thank you.